back to the Sounds of Stadia podcast, episode number 129 of your weekly Stadia show, where we round up all of the gaming and Stadia news for your listening or viewing pleasure right here on youtube.com/Helix Cloud Games, or up there on your podcast preference of choice in the digital cloud. You're joining myself, Chris, alongside the man of many pixels himself, Mr. Richie.
You know what? We've had some nice surprises this week, so I'm pretty happy.
We have. Stadia gone all crazy on Nuos. Next up on Stadia, we've had blog post after blog post after blog post, folks. And we're here to break it all down and talk about it, because we've got a great show lined up for you discussing all of those games. Talking about the games journalists out there actually writing positive articles on the Google Cloud platform. We've got WWE possibly moving over to EE. We've got new games rated, Gamescom making a return, and much, much more. But before we dive into all that, don't forget to click like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell so you are kept in the loop with all of the good cloud gaming goodness we bring you here at Helix Cloud Games from myself, Richie, and Tom, because we have weekly Let's Plays, weekly live streams, first looks, and much, much more go up on the channel. Our members do get access to that up to 6 days early for some of our shows and content, special badges, etc., etc. And more importantly, you support us. So thank you to everyone out there who just hit like after I said do that thing. You actually went and did it. Well done. Give yourself a round of applause. Clap on the back.
Yeah, we like you.
Have yourself a beer, a cheeky beer, even if you might just be starting your Monday, heading off to work. Why not? Yeah. Just don't tell your boss.
It's 8 o'clock in the morning on Monday when this episode comes out, so yeah, crack yourself one open.
Why not? You've earned it. You've earned it. But as I said, Richie, if you want to support the channel a little bit more, they can do so by clicking join down below if they're watching on YouTube, or if they're watching on Spotify, listening on Spotify. You can just give us a star rating, because that is a thing Spotify does. It helps out the algorithm, and it finds other people the path to our content, Richie, because we're growing, we like it, we do our thing, we put out weekly content, ever consistent as always, 129 episodes consistently. We're kind of proud of that. We're definitely proud of that. Yeah. One of the things we do fairly consistently as well is our weekly live streams. If you are a fan of cloud gaming and you don't just want to sit back and talk and listen to us, actually jump in with us. We do a lot of community streams, and this last week, Richie, you joined yourself, because I was unfortunately unable to attend for family reasons. You played Dawn of the Monsters, of course, just dropped as a pro game this month. You checked it out. What are some of your first thoughts on the kaiju smashing action?
It's perfectly fine.
Oh!
It's not good, it's not great, it's not bad either. If you like Rampage and like the Sega Mega Drive, that sort of era, and you just want to be a big kaiju destroying other monsters, and you can smash up buildings a bit, but although, to be honest, the smashing up the buildings wasn't that great. But it's fine. It's basically a side-scrolling beat-em-up, only you play as a giant monster rather than a guy down on the ground.
So is it
you can smash people with buildings, which is
right?
Fun.
That's good. That's always good. So is it in actual stages? Like, do you stay in one static location, or do you move along the map a la Streets of Rage?
So, like each like map, each level is kind of split into stages. I think it's usually about 4 or 5 stages. Each of them you get a ranking based on how well you do. So the way, depending on how you kill the other monsters on that stage, you get more points. That kind of thing. Okay. There's a bit more customizability than I expected. How you can get augments, so you can tweak what sort of abilities your character has.
Okay.
So that's something that's probably a bit more depth. There's 4 characters, and outside the actual, each of them have abilities, which they're different from character to character. But other than that, they largely play very similar.
Okay.
But it was, as I said, I think I would have had more fun if we sat down on the couch playing together than I did playing on my own. But
yeah, it seems like you get a bit more fun out of the banter between 2 people.
Yeah, definitely. That's one of the things that was missing a bit. So
okay, well,
I tried out all the characters, played a couple of levels.
Give it a good old college try, as they say.
Yeah.
Terrific. And you can go check that out, ladies and gentlemen. It's up on our channel right now as a VOD. If you're on the fence about it, if you may be thinking about subscribing to Stadia Pro this month to claim it, go check out Richie's first look and tell us what you think. Of course, it hasn't launched on other platforms yet. It doesn't come out until the 15th, I believe, on PlayStation, Xbox and Switch and stuff. So get in there early while you can, cloud people. Do it while you can. This past week, I've been playing a bit more Stadia. Richie, I'm totally in on the FIFA now. With my, I think I've said it for 3 weeks in a row now. My career mode's ticking away. I just signed this young lad who's like 19, and he's 88 overall. means nothing
from
to
the
Spotsfield.
youth academy.
No, free agent. Just straight into that free agent market, and my scout said, "Check this kid out." Got him on about 28 grand a week wage, and he's worth over 100 million. So, boy, am I going to sell that puppy and just finance my entire squad with his one
How
player.
many seasons are you in?
2.
This has got to be like a Lionel Messi regen or something then. But to be that that high rated at such a young age, it's like.
Well, I'm currently.
Does he have one of them weird pre-computer generated faces?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm currently 2 seasons in. I'm in League One because I always like to start at the bottom of the ladder and work my way up through the English leagues. So yeah, I'm in League One, and I'm at the top of League One, albeit I'm on the cusp of the Championship. And I have a level, an 88 striker overall, just from the free agent pool. So
sell them in January.
yeah, get rid of it. You can't sell him. I have to keep him for a full rotation before you can sell him. But that is the goal because he's worth over 100 million. So I'm going to rake that in. But that's what sport's about, right? You find the youth players and you sell them on for big bucks and fund many more important things. But yeah, totally in on that. I've checked out a little bit of the pro games. Didn't look at Dawn of the Monsters because I was obviously saving that for Thursday with you. Had a little play around with Darkwood. It's what I expected. It's fun, but I'm not really in the horror mood right now because it's coming up on spring. Maybe later in the year I'll get back around to that one. Just like some of the games we're talking about in today's show. I've not had that much time with Horizon Forbidden West because I've been decorating. And my index finger is really dry from using grout. I should have worn gloves, and it's now just... Yeah, I keep having to lick. If you see me lick the tip of my finger throughout the course of this podcast, it's because it's
Is it
dry.
one of them things because it's dry?
It just needs moisture. I won't quite be sucking on my thumb like a child, but I may wet the tip a little bit, as they say, Richie. After all, it is Friday night, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get into the show proper. We've got loads of news to talk about. So, Richie, do me the honours and kickstart things off by introducing us to the
super sexy special Stadia story segment, aka the news.
Lots of news, because, as we said right at the beginning, Stadia are, quite frankly, I feel like they're spoiling us right now. We've had a year of silence, and then we get 3 blog posts in 1 week, back to back to back. I don't know, quite frankly, myself, and I know the guys over at the Stadia Source team, don't know what to do. They're running around with stories dropping left, right, and centre. It's a crazy world we live in. It's almost as if communicating with your audience creates a really good vibe and a positive energy.
Yeah, it's a weird thing there, isn't it? Telling people what you can expect from a platform gets people going interested in this.
Yeah, it's communication and, more importantly, games. So to kick things off with story number 1 of the week from Nuos, as I keep dubbing it. Next up on Stadia, the blog post of the week dropped, and we got 3 games announced as coming to Stadia. Usually we only get those kind of mega announcements in and around pro time, when they're going to tease us with like 1 or 2 little titles that might be going pro. There might be something in the pipeline, or a developer may say something and the blog post tells us about it 5 days after the fact, and we've already covered it on the podcast. But for once, we got 3 titles we knew nothing about. However, kicking things off this week, Richie, this is a title you and myself have been clambering for probably well over a year now, I think it has been.
I think we've been talking about this game should come to Stadia since we've had a podcast.
Probably. If you haven't been listening along or able to tell, we're big fans of this game. So, first up, Overcooked. All you can eat, the collection of Overcooked 1 and 2, and all of the DLCs packed into a nice little sandwich, Richie. A tasty little treat. And you and me can be the meat in the middle of that sandwich playing Overcooked on Stadia, because it's coming soon. They haven't quite told us when, however. But as I said, for those who don't know Overcooked, the peckish have risen again, and it's your job to satisfy their hunger. Are you ready to save the world? So, for those who don't know Overcooked, you take place in a fictional world, of course. Multitude of characters to choose from, both animal and humanoid. I mean, after all, you are working alongside a giant onion who is king of the realm to fight off monsters. It's the unbred in the second game, and it's the giant bolognese spaghetti monster in game 1. And essentially, it's a co-op. I was going to say hack and slash, but it's kind of chop and slash and make.
It's
cooking game.
It's a cooking game. It's a cooking game.
You're
running a restaurant. It's co-op. You're running a restaurant together. It's like make the dishes as they come. Get points. More points you get, the more stars you get, the less the unbred take over the world.
Yeah, unbred, essentially the undead, but they're chunks of bread. Yeah, it's like anyone who played Cooking Mama back on the Nintendo DS. It's kind of that mixed with a more frantic multiplayer mode. We've played this before, Richie, on PlayStation. We've actually spent an entire night having a few beers and trying to get the platinum for this game on PlayStation.
Yeah, I think was it Overcooked 2 that we just one-shotted? We just started a new game and completed. And
just powered through 3 stars on every event.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm thrilled that the team at Ghost Town Games, the developers, and the publishers, Team 17, are bringing this game over to the platform. It does go online as well, so it's got online with crossplay as well, I believe. And up to 4K, I guess, if you've got Stadia Pro and it runs on 4K. But multiplayer modes, accessibility features, everything you'd expect from that. We will 100% be doing a stream for this as well because we love the game and it's very fun to watch. And basically, the fun is in the messing up. That's right. It's not an efficiently ran kitchen for the most part.
Like, your first go at a level is kind of... It's a throwaway to figure out, what's our strategy? It's like, okay, I'm on the onions. You take care of the dough. We're making pizza, guys.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, pizza levels, burgers... sushi. The dishes kind of get a bit complex in the later part of the game, but I can't wait.
We do have a release date for April for this, actually.
Oh, good shout.
We don't have a day, but it is April 2020.
Which,
I think this could be a pro game.
I hope it's a pro game because I believe it was a PlayStation Plus title not too long back, and it wouldn't surprise me if it was a Game Pass game at some point if it isn't at the moment. Let us know in the comments down below if you do know that fact. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait. And I think the biggest part to come out of this story, along with one of the next games we'll talk about, is it's another publisher on board with Stadia, Team 17. No titles yet released on the platform. And this is great going forward because it just tells me that there's a new relationship.
Yep. And we might finally get Worm Game.
We might get Worm Game in line with... maybe we didn't get Worm Game because it was
Worm
copyright.
Game Armageddon.
Worm Game. I used to love the Worms games.
Yeah.
What was the latest one? They had like a Battle Royale one that came out on
other
consoles around about probably late last summer.
I'll admit I haven't played one since like Worms Armageddon.
It was
which
free.
was amazing.
Worms Battle Royale. I can spell Worms right with there. Worms Battle.
I think did it come to PS Plus or something?
Yeah, Worms Rumble. That's the one. Yeah. Worms Rumble. 2020 action game. Damn, it was 2 years ago. December 2020. That's crazy. I thought that wasn't long ago at all. But it's out on all other series, not coming to Stadia at this time. However, now the relationship's up and active, I've got to imagine the conversations are happening about what other titles they want to bring over. And that, Richie, is what brings us on to the next game that was announced as part of this community blog, which was Golf with Your Friends. So, different developer. This is Blacklight Interactive, published by Team 17 once again. So that's 2 games in one go coming from Team 17 publishers. Golf with Your Friends is essentially, as you'd expect, a multiplayer golf game. It's got online co-op play as well. It's an interesting one, Richie, because it looks like from the trailer, it's a golf game that also has loads of quirky takes on it as well. It's not just a pure simulator. Yeah, it's not pure simulator.
Yeah.
Lots of...
This is not PGA Tour. It's crazy golf.
Yeah, don't expect to see Tiger Woods or anything on this. It looks like it features things like explosives, ice, gravitational, blockers, tricks. I'm guessing within each
cosmetics
turn.
For your golf ball. I've seen one with a snorkel.
Cosmetics for your golf ball. Wow. That's taking it. However, I will say there was a lot of people in the community across social media when this was announced. The Golf with Your Friends was one of the ones that stood out with loads of people saying, actually, this is a great game. I played it with my children. I've played it on my own. And there is something about golf games that it's quite relaxing. I know we've seen people in the content community do golf streams in the past. I know from just playing Mario Golf and stuff back in the day, there's something therapeutic about knock it, watch it bounce, hear the crowd, oh, and then just kind of, get under par.
Yeah, it's another April 2020 release again. I hope this is another pro game. And up to 12-player multiplayer, so...
Ooh, there's definitely a stream in that then.
There is.
There has to be. So yeah, mini golf up to 12 players. So we'll get you people involved out there in the community across themed courses, using power-ups, different game modes, and a level editor as well. And we'll see where we go with that one. So fun to be had on the fairway. Definitely some use of some Happy Gilmore references, I think we need to do in that one. But moving on. Final game of that particular blog post of the week, we got another title announced. Very excited to see this one come as well. It's an older game, albeit. However, it fits into the one of the things you and me have been asking for quite some time, and that is mouse and keyboard type games.
Yes.
And we have that now in the form of Cities Skylines. So for those who aren't familiar, this one is from Tantalus Media, published by Paradox Interactive, and this one will be coming spring 2022. So not an April date on this one, but spring. I guess it doesn't have that big of a window. Yeah, it could be April, May, June. City Skylines puts you in charge of a growing city, from the groundbreaking of its first streets to the ever-changing needs of thousands of citizens. Design, build, and manage the city of your dreams, from public services to civic policies, and challenge yourself to grow from a simple town to a bustling metropolitan hub. City Skylines is an award-winning, best-selling management game with all the robust city simulation gameplay and unique charm along for the ride. Design, build, and manage the city of your dreams from public services. I've just read that. This blog post has done the same thing again. It's literally repeating the same paragraph. That's happened before, hasn't it, when I've read it out?
I think so, yeah.
Good old copy and paste job there. It's literally repeated. About halfway through the first sentence, it repeats itself. So I won't repeat myself, but good proofread there, Stadia team. Might want to get on that one and just delete some words out of there. But part of City Skylines, essentially, for those who don't know, it's like SimCity. It's you very much manage the city, finances.
It's a city tycoon game.
Yeah, finances.
You manage a city,
infrastructure. City Skylines, I believe it deals with world natural events like tornadoes and earthquakes.
Yeah, I think so. I haven't seen a lot of City Skylines content, but there is some good stuff out there. I know there was Spiffing Brit, one I told you just before we went live. He made a city that is his economy is entirely based on toll roads, and I generally recommend watching it because it's hilarious.
So is that there's nothing? No, he doesn't charge any tax or anything
no
like
tax.
That. It's just
all tolls.
You pay
all tolls.
Oh, big mistake if everyone decides to get bicycles then.
No, just charge the bicycles for the toll.
You can't do it. Just go around it. They don't pay road tax. Either way, we digress.
But,
the big thing for me with City Skylines is this is what we've been clambering for. More huge mouse and keyboard games that don't require a super souped up strong PC to run. You can just do it in the cloud. This, of course, it's probably going to be the console edition of City Skylines.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. I expect it's probably going to be like a PlayStation port. But hopefully if they have full mouse and keyboard integration, then great. Then Stadia effectively becomes the best console to play this game.
Certainly, yeah. The version on PlayStation was the PlayStation 4 edition, so it was specific for that console.
Yeah,
which is great to see. Again, back to what we said though about Team 17 being on board. Tantalus Media, they've worked on some interesting projects. They're a team that have been around for some time, since the 90s. Working on a lot of ports more recently. If you look at their library, they did the Age of Empires Definitive Edition ports for Microsoft, so 2 and 3. Richie, you'll be glad to hear they worked on the Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD port on Nintendo.
I mean,
Switch.
that's not getting ported to Stadia.
No, I'm saying like in terms of like what's in their catalogue of libraries.
Yeah.
City Skylines, of course. Rhyme. Remember Rhyme over on the Nintendo Switch? Sonic Mania, ported that to the Nintendo Switch.
Paradox Interactive, they made Magica. Great game.
Magica. But yeah, so these guys, they're a dab hand at definitely porting games, and I'm interested to see what that kind of relationship could turn into. But yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is probably the Paradox Interactive. Now they're on board. What other games have they got?
That's what I'm just looking at now. That's why I saw Magica. Nothing. Crusader Kings 3.
Like Crusader Kings.
Empire Sin, Age of Wonders Planetfall. So Age of Wonders is kind of like a Civ style game, only more fantasy inspired rather than like traditional world inspired. See anything else? Prison Architect Mobile. Prison Architect is kind of could be another fun game to play.
The one that stood out for me was
Hearts of Iron. One of our friends is a big Hearts of Iron fan.
Yes, true. Surviving Mars was the one I think that I could see coming next. So Surviving Mars is the city builder, but on Mars. So you just simulate the same thing in City Skylines, but you do it on another planet with, I'd imagine, extra levels of managing oxygen and, and other important things like water. That's
Pillars of Eternity was kind of a spiritual successor to Baldur's Gate.
okay, so they've got quite a few games in their library as well. But for me, the biggest takeaway from these 3 games and these blog posts is just new relationships, because we've seen it touted many, many times that Stadia is dying, they're closing down, they're only focusing 20%. However, it seems to be either ramping back up, they've hit the lull and they're on the upswing at the moment, just based on the amount of news we're getting. And these there was a weird sense of enjoyment in the community this week, and these games are all older titles. Like Overcooked is a few-year-old, Skylines is 7-year-old, but
they're not AAA titles either. I'd say they're AA titles, but they're good quality, well-respected AA titles.
That's it.
These are games like Overcooked, Golf with Your Friends, City Skylines. You're looking at these 3 games and going, yeah, there's some fun there. I mean, we've pretty much declared that we intend to stream probably all 3 of these at some point.
Yes, I'm more than happy to.
That is a good sign.
Yeah, if they're fun enough to play, even though they're older titles, then yeah, they should be able to stand the test of time. And this is kind of the hope we had for Stadia in the beginning, is that starting with a library of nothing gives you the opportunity to go back in time and curate and pick out the best games, the Game of the Year editions. Overcooked is the complete 1 and 2 package. City Skylines is, we don't know what the DLC situation is, but they've had 7 years of different various DLCs. We're guessing that it's just going to be available to purchase in the Stadia store on launch.
I mean, my expectation will be the base game's there, all the DLCs purchasable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not like an Ultimate Edition or anything.
I'm not. There probably might be an Ultimate Edition where you get everything bundled in, but yeah, but you're probably paying more for that.
Yeah, good.
As you'd expect.
Good to see. Good to see. But 3 new titles coming along. The community was certainly happy with that one, so we'll just have to wait not much longer, as they said, April. So that's a mere 30 days away, 20 days away.
Fingers crossed for all these turn up to Pro as well.
Yeah, I mean, we need games to come, right? So there's no reason why not.
And I don't think any of these games are out of the question.
Definitely. So I do have speaking of questions, Richie, question for you.
Yeah.
When did Google Stadia launch worldwide?
Oh, it was 2019.
Any particular month?
It was November.
Well done. You get all the points, Richie, because next up we've got Trivial Pursuit live. Play the world's best known trivia game coming on March 17th. So next week, ladies and gentlemen. Experience the thrill of a competing live TV trivia game show at home or on the go, featuring different question formats to challenge players from beginner to expert. You can even take on players from around the world in online play. Customize your gameplay, get the whole family on board. Unique catch-up rounds, exclusive question formats. I doubt we'll get any questions related to Google Stadia, but Richie, I think if there was, we would certainly be a shoo-in for some top points with that one.
I'd be so stressed if there was Google Stadia specific questions, because they're like, oh, I should know this stuff.
Yeah, I feel like I've forgot more Stadia news and stories now than I remember.
Yeah. Although we talk about it every week, it's a weekly news cycle, so you read the news,
dump it.
We do the show, we dump it from the memory banks and move on to the next week.
Yeah, certainly. There are some little things that jump up and remember that pop up in my mind.
Yeah.
But Trivial Pursuit from Ubisoft. It's part of that Hasbro collection that Ubisoft own. So things in line that we've got in the past, like Uno and such, have came to Stadia. This one is going to come as well. I'm guessing this is going to be in line with Ubisoft Plus. That seems to be a format that's coming. And it just goes to show there are more Ubisoft titles spread out throughout the year. We've got Monopoly Madness, of course, recently as well. That was a new title on all platforms, but it came as well. Yeah. And more continued support. What do you like with Trivial Pursuit? Is this something your family have played in years gone by, or?
I have played it, but I think the problem with something like Trivial Pursuit is it's like any pub quiz. Sometimes you'll be at a pub quiz and they'll start talking about stuff that happened in the 60s and 70s. It's like, there's no way I'm going to know this.
Yeah, you need that.
Sometimes it's like, well, if you weren't about and you just don't have that context, you just screwed.
Yeah, you could be as knowledgeable as possible, but like we just said with the news, there is a cut-off point where your brain cannot hold that much information.
It's like when you're in a pub quiz and do a picture round and it's like grainy photos of people who were famous for like in the 60s and 70s, like, yeah, okay, I feel it's quite nice though when that happens, because then you do feel a bit young.
Yeah, we haven't done a pub quiz in a long time, probably due to lockdown and stuff.
Not being able to go to pubs.
And that too. However, yes, Trivial Pursuit coming, part of Ubisoft Plus. Probably will drop with a pro price. We usually get a good introductory price to some Ubisoft games. One that hopefully it gets updated with relevant questions as time goes by. It always bugs me when we've played some of the Jackbox games in the past and they have questions and it's like so out of like pop culture. Like, it's so old, it just doesn't... or it's American. No disrespect to our American audience out there, but sometimes the questions can be very much catered towards an American audience. That is someone in England, when you get them questions, it just... there is no chance you're getting that. But, again, Trivial Pursuit. I've played it in the past. I think it being digital does a lot for it. It can be updated and tweaked.
That's the thing. I wonder if they've got different, like, trivia packs as part of the game without... I could look into it, but like if they have different trivia packs, so you can kind of set, okay, this is I want only like topical questions from between like 1990 to 2020.
Yeah, like just a filter to limit the questions.
Yeah,
certainly. But we won't have to wait too long. March 17th, it is dropping on the Stadia store. If it's a decent price, we might even do a stream with that one as well, Richie. This could be the fourth game we've talked about this week.
Yeah,
that includes that. So, good stuff. And that wasn't it, because we had another blog post which rounded up and actually pushed towards the Google for Games Developer Summit. And it's picking up a bit of traction, this, Richie. The Stadia team have not only retweeted, posted, commented in their blog posts about this upcoming Google for Games Developer Summit. Now, I think we were one of the first people to actually report on the Dev Summit and actually highlight the key Stadia-specific features.
Yeah, we did a side quest on it.
Yeah, we did. And is it just me, or are they really, really going for this now?
They are pushing this. I mean, I think during the side quest, when we did the side quest, we'd only just had heard, like, okay, we went through the story in the podcast and went, actually, there's a couple of keywords here dropping around. There's actually some Stadia-focused talks. Let's do a side quest on this. There's more to dig into. Mm-hmm. And since that side quest, as the way things go with us, immediately they start talking a bit more about it, and we were like, oh, I'm not going to get too excited by this. Keep your hype levels low. It's developer focused. Now Google like, yeah, everyone come join it. We're going to be talking about Stadia loads. Like, so our take on side quests is kind of out wrong. But
yeah, I've read them say things like you said, come along and watch. Big news.
They're actually inviting consumers.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be just developer focused.
Yeah,
I think
they've used terminology.
I'm not expecting big game announcements and stuff, but I don't think it's going to be massively nerdy over the heads of most average gamers.
Yeah, they've actively said things like the year ahead. Like, we're talking about what the year ahead is. Even in the blog post that I'm reading from this week on Stadia, it says the festivities kick off with the keynote presentation and you won't want to miss it! Exclamation mark. Like, why won't we want to miss it? Like, what are you going to tell us that we don't want to miss?
I'm keeping my hype levels down a bit, because I think this could be a case of they're going for a hard sell here, because I think they need to get eyes on it. Mm-hmm. But I'm not expecting this to be like the level of what we would hope.
So yeah, I think they're just going to go more to town on it than I think we initially thought. But I'm going to still keep expectations super low. Like, I expect no game announcements from this. I expect to hear a little bit about what the future holds, maybe with publisher deals, the way they're talking about all this behind the scenes stuff with Windows. And we're going to get
the Windows emulation stuff seems to be the pick of the bunch a bit.
So blog post focus on that. The final thing we did get to take away from the blog post was another game announced. That was Mad Streets. So we covered this a few weeks back now. It was rated for Stadia, and here it is. Mad Streets is a physics-based party game which has an emphasis on fist fighting, bringing something new to the genre with interactivity not seen in a fighting game, all the while cracking a smile and bursting into laughter over the ridiculous physics interactions. Mad Streets launches on Stadia March 15th. So at the time this show goes live, it's tomorrow. So good luck. Go check it out. The best way, I think, Richie, you've described this as Gang Beasts meets Streets of Rage.
Yeah, it seems at times it looks like I think there's some other modes. I saw like a dodgeball mode in there, but there seems a lot of it is like seems to be like side scroller beat 'em up, but with a more physics bit like slapstick physics based engine, similar like you find in something like a Gang Beasts or a Human Fall Flat.
Yeah, human fall flat, definitely. There is something fun in that kind of crazy Octodad. You don't really have control of your limbs.
It's something really frustrating at times, isn't it?
It can be. It certainly can be. But yeah, it comes out next week. I'm guessing it's going to probably have a decent price tag. Probably not a pro game anytime soon. Otherwise, I think it would have launched as a pro game. So go check out Mad Streets, coming this very week. But to go back, Richie, to a little bit of what we were discussing beforehand, you mentioned it, the Windows game. So again, we covered it in a previous show, but it would appear that the news journalists out there, the gaming news journalists who keep their ear to the ground on this kind of stories, had a little bit of a time delay, because it looks like certain sites have now picked up on some of these Google Games Summit conferences, and they're writing articles about it, positive articles about it, which is weird. Off the back of 3 blog posts, 5 new game announcements paired with last week's 5 game announcements. That's 10 game announcements in 2 weeks, and now we're having journalists write positively about Stadia's future in some manner. What's happening, Richie? What is happening out there?
Oh, they all watched SideQuest 56 when we broke it down. We want a piece of the we want a piece of that pie. No, I joke. I think this is. I think a lot of these journalists, don't think there's I think at times there's been some journalists who seem to have a bit of a thing against Stadia. I think that is generally settled down a lot. Now I think there's a lot of disinterest in Stadia unless they do something interesting.
Yeah.
And as much as we're excited for City Skylines, Golf with Your Friends and Overcooked, that's not selling clicks for these websites. No. However, Google upgrading the porting technology to get Windows games to come over directly shows it's a very different. That is a very interesting thing from just if you're gamers. Like, first of all, platform's not dead. You don't do this if the platform's dead.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, to bring that all in together, the reason I'm mentioning it is because Tom Warren over at The Verge reported this week, Google hints at Windows games running on Stadia. Reading direct from the article, Google appears to have built its own solution for running Windows games on Stadia. Google is planning to detail its Windows emulator for Linux next week at the company's Google for Games Developer Summit. Reddit users have spotted a session at the summit which will detail how to write Windows emulator for Linux from scratch. Now, sorry Reddit users out there, we covered this as well. I want us in this article.
The one thing I want to point out is, I know you've mentioned The Verge. This is reading from The Verge. There's a couple of others who've mentioned the word emulator, and nowhere in the breakdown we did the word emulator come up. They're talking about porting technology. They're pitching this as if it's like just a Windows emulator built into Stadia, so you're emulating Windows to play these games. But I think the reality is we don't know whether if that is one approach that could work. Another approach is a set of tools that kind of helps with the porting process. So you can just stick a Windows version in and the porting process does the conversion. But the reality is, until the Dev Summit, we don't know.
Well, yeah, exactly. I just thought it was really curious how one article gets written and then another article references the other one. I think Eurogamer had an article called "Looks like Google is working on bringing Windows games to Stadia." And then it has to have a little joke, Solitaire on the cloud, which I'd quite happily take Solitaire, quite frankly.
It went with Solitaire, not Minesweeper.
Yeah. But then, it looks like Google is working on bringing Windows games to the cloud. The company revealed things, and then thanks to The Verge for the article. So the problem, I think, with a lot of games journalism nowadays is their source is literally another game's website. They don't do any research or investigation themselves. They don't reach out to Stadia for comment. They literally just go, copy, paste, change the words. He's an article.
I think it's not just in games journalism, and it's not new either, this sort of phenomenon. It's just one of them things where, hey, The Verge are a respectable outlet, so we'll just they've published this, therefore it must be worth publishing, so we'll do a take on it. It's lazy, to be honest. Like, there's no verified source, there's no quote for anyone at Stadia, and they don't both The Verge and Eurogamer, I don't think actually put any links to the actual
the actual
announcement from
the
Stadia.
page with the schedule that details the breakdown.
The only verified source of public information they don't actually put a link to. So I think they might be right, to be honest. I think the take is probably right in this. It is probably they've probably built a Windows emulator to stick on top of the Linux base that allows the porting just to happen natively.
Yeah. But as I think we've said, all those articles aside, we've had 95 Google, Gizmodo picked up on it as well, as did a bunch of other tech websites. And hopefully it does ring true and we do actually see a list of titles possibly come. I know Google seem to be pushing, well, the Stadia team, keeps pushing people towards this event. Imagine if they do drop this porting setup and then give us a list of compatible Windows games that somehow, through some kind of Proton Linux emulator thing, all of a sudden we get access to something in the cloud.
It's possible to use a game as an example.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen stuff like that where it's like, so you might get like kind of semi-announcements from it, but I'm not expecting them to go, here's the list of games we're porting over. That's not what this is about. Again, in the end of the day, while they are pushing this to consumers as well, but they've also done a recent survey, which I suspect maybe one of the things, and we've always people talked about knowing what's going on, finding out what's going on in the back end. So I think this might be why they're pushing this to consumers as well as the industry, as developers. But this, in the end of the day, is a developer summit. Yeah. While they're saying, "Hey, consumers, come along," it's still not for us.
Yeah. I mean, if anything, it's just create a rod for their own back, where there's going to be a bunch of articles next Tuesday that say the emulator Windows talk was just this, and it'll give it
it's
a really...
I actually don't think that's the take. I am a very cynical person, but because this is at a developer summit, I think that any takes on it will be like, yeah, this is kind of, if this ends up just being the dry techie talk that I expect it to be.
Yeah.
I think that's what the take will be.
Okay.
And I don't think it'll be a negative spin on that.
Cool.
If there's a journalist going to this event or covering this event who's expecting a huge list of game announcements, I think they're quite naive.
Indeed. And we won't be doing that. We will temper our expectations. We haven't actually discussed yet, Richie. Do we have any plans to cover this on the channel? What's your schedule looking like Tuesday, 5 p.m, I think UK time it is?
I could be home for that.
Okay. We'll discuss it off air, folks. If you listen to this on Monday, keep it locked to our social channels, Twitter, Facebook page. Join us in our Discord if you want to be kept in the loop. We actually talk about video games and life in general and the difficulties of being an adult and wanting to play games but not having enough time all the time in our Discord. The link is in the description on podcast services and on YouTube. Join us, hop in. There's so many people, names you will recognise in the community, chatting away. New people dropping every week, and it's quite active and vibrant. So if you are sat out there thinking I only interact once or twice with a few people on Twitter or something, jump in and have a chat. We have different threads for people who are playing Destiny Witch Queen still right now. We're happy to open up more channels if you're a big fan of, say, FIFA and you're looking for the players. We're always open to suggestions and new gameplay things. I keep having this itch, Richie, to play the Division 2 again. I'm waiting for Ubisoft to announce like what the roadmap is for this Year 2 content, and then I'll be straight back in. Same with Avengers, if they ever do anything to that, kick that dead horse while it's down, give it a bit of life. Where's the road? Where's She-Hulk? We reported on She-Hulk weeks ago now. Give it to us. But speaking of games, Richie, coming to it, Ubisoft support games long into the lifespan, even when the name's spelled incorrectly. For Honor, this last week, got Year 7 content. They released a new trailer showing new season information off. And there's an article over at Eurogamer which is saying more than 5 years on, For Honor is finally getting crossplay, which brings it in line with kind of Ubisoft's mantra at the moment for all their titles. They've been really good across them. Sorry, Year 6. I did say Year 7. The video is correcting me. It's Year 6 of content, which I did question then. I said it's been going for Year 7, and this is, the article says, for 5 years, For Honor hasn't got crossplay. Didn't quite mathematically line up, but we corrected it in the moment, Richie. So the trailer is kind of released, and it shows off that crossplay is going to be deployed in 2 phases for Honor. And the reason I wanted to bring it up right now is because if you recall, I know we said that earlier on in the show, our memory's not so great for remembering stories. For Honor was discussed during a Ubisoft earnings call in previous years as coming to Stadia, and then they retconned that and later on actually apologised and said, "Oh, our bad. For Honor isn't actually coming to Stadia, even though we had it listed." They and quote straight from a Ubisoft spokesperson, "There was a mistake, and we can confirm that For Honor sadly won't be coming to Stadia." Now, the way Ubisoft have been handling Ubisoft Plus, and again to throw it back, if you remember the Ubisoft Plus marketing for Stadia, how to sign up for it. I think I found out when I was clicking around. I think I was doing a video for our channel for how to sign up. For Honor was in the artwork for Ubisoft Plus when you linked your Stadia account somewhere. I can't remember where exactly.
Yeah.
So the breadcrumbs for me, Richie, are there. And with crossplay comes great opening of doors to other platforms. And I think, just like Rainbow Six Siege, this could be the fire that finally pushes For Honor over onto Stadia and Luna and other cloud platforms.
I'm 100% with you on this one. I suspect they've pulled For Honor or put on ice until they got crossplay deployed, because unfortunately Stadia just doesn't have the user base to sustain the game on its own. So, and with it being a live service game, like, you've got to have a multiplayer base. You've got to have players in there, otherwise the game is dead. So rather than tarnishing the game on Stadia now or like last year, wait till they get crossplay sorted, and then you have the entire pool of everyone who's playing this game for Stadia players to jump in and play with. Yeah, I think it's a smarter strategy. Yeah, I think Phase 1's coming out soon. Phase 2's in development. I think Stadia will probably be after that. Yeah, I think that's a lot of pieces coming together, and you've got to imagine the team who were developing For Honor, the Ubisoft studio. They have their kind of yearly discussions, their breakdowns. They're part of the investors' call, and they say, what is the plan for porting this across? And the team over at For Honor say, look, we won't have crossplay ready until maybe mid-2022. And then you're totally right. It would be total smart business for them to say, right, we've got games in the pipeline. Yeah, we still haven't got Far Cry 4. We haven't got Blood Dragon still. There's a bunch of content. There's probably a few Assassin's Creeds in there that are missing. Ubisoft... my belief is that their goal is to get all of their catalogue in the cloud. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I think it's priorities. What for the For Honor team? What makes more sense for them? Unifying the current player base into a single pool instead of split across 3 different pools, so PC, Xbox, and PlayStation, or bringing in the new platforms, which are going to be, let's say Luna and Stadia. There's 2 new pools of players that are going to be relatively minute, and therefore probably not hit that critical mass enough to sustain itself completely. And so I expect this to come now. I think it will. Yeah, I do as well. You heard it here first, folks. I don't know when. This year. Maybe it might be this year. It might be this year, might be next year. Yeah. It depends how quickly Phase 2 is developed. Yeah, and it's interesting because it kind of lines up with, if anyone watches social channels for Ubisoft, they put out a short video, about 2 minutes long this week, or I saw it on Twitter, from Jimmy Boulian was talking about cloud gaming and have you tried it yet? And he talks about Ubisoft strategy, working with partners, how they try and reduce latency on the titles, and at the end he literally references Stadia and Luna and an Xbox cloud gaming in line with Ubisoft. The logos are on the video, on the trailer, and it's just, again, it's interesting how the narrative could potentially shift. You've got a big AAA third-party publisher talking about it actively. You've got the Games Summit coming up. You've got news coming thick and fast for titles. All we're really missing, Richie, is those AAAs. That's the kind of final piece of the puzzle. But we have to wait for that, of course. And I'm sure Ubisoft will be supporting us all year long with AAA releases. But yeah, I for one, enjoyed For Honor when I played it back in launch 5-6 years ago. I've never played it. I think you'd really dig it. I really do. It's a solid... the control take on it is you have to literally use the joysticks to block left, block right, block from above, block below, as opposed to just hold L1 to block. And it's got a bunch of new factions added, so it's like Vikings square off against medieval Knights of the Round Table versus I can't remember. They added so many different classes in, and again, it's 5 years in now, so this game is like awesome. I've played Chivalry, which is kind of similar. It's a similar game, yeah. Similar. So For Honor, maybe Richie, by the time it rolls out on Stadia, they'll get that extra U added into the title. I wouldn't hold your breath for that.
Nah,
it messes up the symmetry of the logo.
I'm just playing. Moving on though to some other folks who are still playing. WWE and their license with 2K. The recent title, WWE 2K 2022, just dropped on other platforms, not on Stadia, to much dismay of me. Again, we got WWE Battlegrounds last year, as crap as that title was. But this was the new one. They were coming back thick and fast. They delayed a year, remember, to bring this across. It's currently being reviewed 76 on Metacritic, so not great, but it's okay. It's passable for an entry into the world of WWE wrestling. And this week, a report comes out of GameStop that the WWE licensing could actually be developed by EA. Oh, sorry. For audio listeners, there was an advert played on the website. I hate that adverts aren't muted automatically.
I just mute the tab now.
Oh yeah, that would be good to do. Yeah. So just at the top.
Yeah, just right click on the tab and just go mute tab, mute site.
I see. Either way, WWE games could be in development by EA in the future. So it looks like the franchise, or the people who negotiate, I guess, is rightly so, probably frustrated a little bit with the relationships they've had in the last few years with... I know 2K Sports, they publish the games, but I think the latest entries, obviously, they had to delay it a year, so that means that's essentially an entire year of income that they've missed out on. The lack of support and kind of success of the Battleground spin-off, not doing too great.
Yeah, I mean, if you kind of like look at what the relationship over the last like couple of years... They had a game come out that was absolutely... It was dreadful. Apparently, it was dreadful.
Yeah,
it was a broken mess. So that forced them to skip a year.
Mm-hmm.
Then they had Battlegrounds, which was, well, as you claim, I've never played it. You said
I bought
rubbish.
it, played it with my brother, and thankfully was able to refund it within 2 hours. That's how bad it was.
There you go. That's the level of that game. And then a 77 isn't great, to be honest. It's fine. But considering when you're at such a low ebb, you're kind of swinging for the fences with this one, especially if your license deal's coming up. Yeah. You kind of, I think, like WWE are probably looking at this next game going, this needs to be in the 80s for us to even probably consider. Otherwise, it's
sorry. When you said the 80s, there, my brain went like wrestling in the 80s, and I was thinking of all these like old 80s superstars, like Hulk Hogan. Yeah, Oh yeah. That's where he's like.
Yeah, but you know, like a Metacritic rating of an 80, a 77 is not a bad game by any stretch of the imagination. But when you're so low down, it's like you've had an extra year. Mm-hmm. Is this the best you can do? Bear in mind, I'm sure WWE wanted this to go back to annual.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of it. So looking at it, the original
your options.
The original deal was with THQ back in the day, like SmackDown versus Raw. Like I loved those games growing up as a kid. And then obviously we all know what happened to THQ. They went bust. So 2K signed on to the sports contract to produce WWE games. It was a 6-year deal that was inked back in 2016. So it is literally on the cusp of coming up for renewal. And you know what? I could see EA being all over this. They bought Codemasters. Absolutely, they want to be the kings of sports. They've got a new golf game in the works. They have obviously FIFA's and Madden are behemoths in terms of bringing in stuff. So, you know what? Even though a lot of people sometimes think the wrestling, it's not a real sport because it's scripted and stuff as well. But it's classed as a sport. It's out there on sports channels. It brings in a lot of money. And I love the theatre of it all personally.
I think it's weird that the wrestling games hasn't really made it big in the esports category. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure the guys at WWE will absolutely want this to take off as an esport.
Yeah. Because
it's there. And all fighting games kind of all decent fighting games make the way through as an esport thing. So there's absolutely no reason like wrestling couldn't. You could have WWE at EVO.
Mm. Is it now you said that out loud? It really is crazy to think, actually, we've got these games that come out and they have all the different game modes. They have the Royal Rumbles, they have the multiplayer, the Iron Man matches and stuff, Hell in a Cell. Why have they not give the license to someone like NetherRealm and let them do like a Mortal Kombat-esque game with like side-on fighting style? So forget, like, you can still have a fictional ring and just, we got Battlegrounds, which was just like a silly cartoon head take on a normal game.
Yeah.
Give me give it a NetherRealms. Let them do the Injustice makeover on all these wrestlers. Make them superhuman where, yeah, they might break ribs and stuff because that happens in real life. But yeah, if John Cena does this, you can't see this. He literally goes invisible. That's his special move. The Rock does his eyebrow and his eyebrow pops off and goes around the neck and chokes him. Like something absolutely crazy. Yeah. And then,
if you're going to go slapstick, go hard.
Yeah, go hard. I mean, the Mortal Kombat's ridiculous.
That's the trick to slapstick. Anything. If you're going to go slapstick, you have to just go for it.
Got to commit. Because you've got to laugh at Mortal Kombat when the ribs get cracked and skull, and then they keep fighting on. Yeah. It's like you would literally be dead right now. You've just been spinal severed.
I think the trick for a WWE game is, one, it has to have the same sort of hype moments that wrestling fans expect that you'd get in the kind of the scripted actual wrestling entertainment. Yeah, you need to have them hype moments built in, but in the end of it, it is a fighting game. It's got to feel good to play.
It really, really does. So it's interesting to see. Again, big disappointment that it's not out on Stadia. 2K have a few games. We got Battlegrounds, so it's a shame that we got Battlegrounds and not this entry because it is the best one in a while, it would appear. Yeah. Would I be streaming it on the live stream? Probably. I'd jump in with a few people in the community and do play a wrestling game. But only
I'd jump in. I'm not a wrestling fan, but I'd jump in.
Only time will tell. But I think EA, it could be a good move for them to bring wrestling in-house with their other sports franchises. As much as loads of people hate EA. But tell you one thing, Richie, people don't hate, and that is an APK breakdown file. That's right, reporting from 9 to 5 Google, our good friend Carl Bradshaw, once again doing the Lord's work and breaking down APK insight files. For those who don't know, these are the coding files that get released on Android, and you can break down the coding and have a look at what words and terminology is used in the upcoming update. And it gives us a bit of insight. The biggest thing to come out of this particular update, Richie, is device motion controls for Stadia. It would appear that you've got, and I read, device motion config, gamepad, device motion config sensor, device motion config sensor to gamepad, and then a bunch of other gibberish in between that. But the big takeaway from here is it looks as though there's going to be something added to the app in the imminent future that features some kind of motion control. What does this mean for you? What could this mean for Stadia?
Well, we've seen Stadia bring out Stadia all about just bringing out however you want to play, bring it out. So you got mouse and keyboard, you've got traditional control and the Stadia gamepad. You've got direct touch and you've got emulated controller touch. Motion controls. If a lot of people are playing this on the phone, it's got gyroscopes and stuff you use. I was telling you before, things like when I was playing Breath of the Wild before on my Switch in handheld mode, I would use the gyroscopes to help aim, like arrows and stuff.
Yeah.
I could see that being a useful thing with a key. Like if you got a key sheet plugged into a key sheet, using the gyroscopes built into your phone. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's device motion. I don't think you're going to get motion controls in your Stadia gamepad. But I think this will be more aimed at using your phone.
Yeah. I think there's I mean, in the article, Carl rightly says things like Just Dance makes sense for that kind of thing. Anything that's got motion in regards to racing, like you tilt left, you tilt right. We've all been there in motion controls. Potentially, it could even lean into VR to a degree, where if you're playing something like Super Hot, that could have a turn on VR function.
Turn your head.
Tilt your phone left, right, up, down. Again, I don't know how
Google Cardboard.
Yeah, I don't know how fun that would be.
Well, if they built a decent, not cardboard, like an actual PlayStation VR style headset where you can plug your phone into, and then it uses the motion controls on your phone to move your head around, you could have a full VR experience.
Well, yeah, we've theorized before. If you go and put your phone into a Google Cardboard or a Google Daydream, even though they're all defunct now, but some kind of headset. And then you've got the Stadia controller in your hand linked up to it, and maybe the controller's used for motion, and your head just does the VR element, and you look around like that.
One of the major problems with VR, I think, in the past, the way Google's approached it is, one, you're using your phone, which is people's primary device to carry around with them, so battery life is an issue, and it uses a lot of power, which means a lot of heat, and phones aren't really designed for it. They're quite enclosed, there's not enough cooling.
Mm-hmm.
You stream that, you're suddenly taking away the need for to absolutely hit the GPU with a lot of volts to get that performance.
Yep.
suddenly you're taking away the issues of both battery life and heating and cooling. So it could work really well.
It really does. I've actually been super shocked in recently when I've been playing a lot of FIFA on the Kishi, how little impact having my phone screen on, playing like half an hour to an hour of FIFA.
It's a YouTube vid.
Yeah, it's
using the same sort of power as the YouTube vid.
Whereas I remember playing Google Daydream on some phones back in the day, and those things get hot, like to a point where even the phone pops up with like warnings saying, "Look, stop doing what you're doing." Anyone who's used the camera on a summer holiday will know the phone gets a bit wary of how hot it's getting and says, "You stop it."
Phones have got a lot of things like water and dust protection, which actually is kind of the opposite way you'd want to go with cooling.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Let's just keep everything's really tightly packed in. There's no proper cooling systems in place. There's no fans are in there in your phone.
Yeah, it's
really not good design for cooling. So if you're hitting the GPU in your phone really hard, it's going to kick out a lot of heat.
Yeah, you're completely right. The one good thing, the IP resistance, the ingress protection, the ratings, a lot of phones nowadays are 68 rated, which if they do get too hot, what I used to do back in the day when I was on holiday and my phone
would freezer.
No, if it would say like, "Oh, the phone's getting too hot because you're taking pictures in like the middle of Spain or somewhere," it's just dunk it in water. Because it's it's waterproof / resistant. Shouldn't say proof because it's never waterproof. Nothing's ever waterproof. Yeah. Even boats, just tip them upside down, they're fucked. But back
the first one that had that IP protection's like I had a glass of water and you're looking at it, like,
do it.
It was so hard to just pour it in, but you had to do it.
Just got to test it out. But then final pieces I should say to come away from this breakdown. They've retweaked some of the icons for the touch interface gamepad. And it looks as though there could be customization coming for the touch layout, which I think it's great. Game Pass has it at the moment already on their mobile app.
Yeah.
It just means that the generic layout across the bottom, it doesn't work for every game. It could get in the way or it could be in a different layout. And I think the ability to move your cursor or your analog stick somewhere
how you want it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just a case of how your thumbs are. Like you might depending on the size of your hands and the size of your phone. If you're using, for example, an iPad or something like that, it's quite a big screen to be holding in your hands. Mm-hmm. If you've got buttons in the middle of the screen, you're going to be able to reach them comfortably. Yeah. So being able to move things to suit yourself, I think is a good idea.
Completely agree. And the final thing of note to come out of this breakdown is the introduction of broadcasters and spectators. So there's a couple of listings in there. Group spectator status, spectator change notification, spectator status. What I take away from this is something in line with what Amazon Luna just launched with their direct streaming to Twitch. If you're direct streaming from Stadia to YouTube, the ability to view broadcasters and or interact with spectators from your mobile device seems like something that should be in the pipeline, and this kind of leans into that, if you ask me.
Yeah, I think so. It does seem to be YouTube integration, whether it's more things like Stream Connect. There's a lot of things this could mean. They're quite broad terms.
Yeah.
But when I'm thinking broadcaster, I'm thinking streamers and spectators of people watching.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're doing Stream Connect with someone and you're doing it from your phone, I don't think at the moment there's any way to really see how many people are watching your content, or like you definitely can't see comments or anything. So
the 9 to 5 article does bring up Stream Connect, because in the terms of Stream Connect, there might be their internal terminology where if you're watching my screen through Stream Connect, it's something like the Division.
Mm-hmm.
In that case, I will be the broadcaster and you will be a spectator.
Yeah.
So it could be tweaks to that sort of stuff.
Certainly could be. But we'll keep our eyes locked to our Android Play stores and see if the update does bring anything of merit. Or, Richie, maybe this update file is ready to go live after the Games Developer Summit. They're going to be talking about it all. It could be like, oh, boom, and there's the stuff we've just talked about live now on your app.
Who knows? Google seemed, from our experience looking at the APK breakdowns, Google slowly add bits of code to it, and then you might not hear anything for 6 months.
What was that project one? Something that everyone was jokingly saying it could mean this, it could mean that. I forgot it now. See?
I don't know. I can't remember.
Project something. I know it was that.
Project Spartacus.
No, that's PlayStation. But moving on, final few stories of the week, everybody. Another game was rated for Stadia, and it has some merit too because it comes from Wired Productions, who you may recognise due to last week's announcement of Deliver Us the Moon. This one comes from Camel 101 Studios and in production with Wired Productions. This is a horror adventure game titled Those Who Remain, in which the player assumes the role of a troubled husband trapped in a cursed town. From a first-person perspective, players explore the town, solve puzzles, and stay within lighted areas to avoid being killed by shadowy creatures. As players progress, they can unlock the town's mysteries and encounter other people whom they can choose to kill or save. Choosing to kill people can result in characters being set on fire, killed by shadow creatures, or dropped into the abyss. Richie, we've looked at the trailer and it reminds us of something similar to Control, but in first-person perspective.
Yeah, it's kind of got that creepy vibe of Control, but seems to be more of a narrative walking sim. Where you just... I don't think there's combat in this game.
It doesn't look like it, yeah. It looks like you'll either be killed immediately or you avoid the...
It's all about pain. Your exploration of the world, your interaction with the characters in it, that sort of thing. I think it could be an interesting play.
Yeah, it looks interesting. It does remind me of... It's got that eeriness of kind of Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, What Remains of Edith Finch, like that kind of approach to it. And some puzzle solving always works well for stream, Richie.
Yeah, my initial thoughts were this could be an interesting one for Halloween.
Yeah, certainly. We'll keep...
It's a bit far off, but it's got that creepy vibe. It could be an interesting thing to do.
It looks like quite a short game as well. I think like most puzzle games are. I think we did some checks and it was about 5 or so hours. About
5.5 hours, according to how long to beat.
So so not the longest of games, which I guess with horror you want it fairly short because your poor heart can't take it. So hopefully not too long. Wired Productions been quite good at teasing games coming up as well. So head over, check their Twitter accounts out, their social feeds, and hopefully now it's been rated, we might not have to wait too long. It might be like Team 17. We get a double hit with Deliver Us the Moon and then Those Who Remain, just like we're getting Golf with Friends and Overcooked within the month of April. So not long to wait, hopefully. We got some extra content announced from the Robot Entertainment team over at Orcs Must Die 3, of course. Previously a Stadia exclusive. New DLC titled Tipping the Scales will arrive on April 7th and will include 5 new maps, a new war scenario, a new race, the Tuatara race, new skins, new gear, and plenty more. Of course, teased over on their social channels. We've been meaning to go back to Orcs Must Die 3 actually for quite some time.
It's definitely on the list.
So hopefully, or maybe this DLC will do that. It looks like this new race that they're introducing is kind of lizard people with some kind of cloaking device. Orcs Must Die 3 again lends itself well to just adding new content like enemies and stuff. I really want them to
add new maps,
new
enemies.
I really just want them to add more players. Like that's still the biggest thing, is why is it only 2-player? Scale it up, make it teams of 3, 4, 5, 6 even, and let us mess around.
Bring out a new campaign that's designed for 4 players with a new full set of maps.
Yeah. And for me, the biggest takeaway from this is the DLC is coming day and date with Stadia, because if those who remember, not those who remain, those who remember the previous announcement, I think once it went live on other platforms, they seemed to almost disregard Stadia a little bit. They had a couple of posts go live that spoke about PlayStation, Xbox, but never mentioned Stadia. It almost felt like a disservice to the platform they'd been exclusive with for many, many months at that point. But it seems like now Stadia is in time with all the other platforms, which is how it should be. As a consumer, it should be day and date across all of your platforms, especially when it's DLC. Launch is one thing. DLC content, you do that after the fact. You put a date on that. So until it's ready for everyone, don't put it out, because one consumer on one platform shouldn't be any lesser than another platform, if you ask me. And that brings us to our final story of the week. Gamescom, the big annual gaming event held in Germany, will be coming back and running from the 24th of August until the 28th in Cologne, Germany. This event, of course, usually gathers over 250,000 people, and it did so in 2019 until, of course, one giant global pandemic gone fucked all that up, Richie. But it's coming back this year. It's physically back. You can get a flight or travel or drive or do whatever you do to get to Germany, and you can attend Gamescom 2022. It's been a hiatus for a few years. It's no doubt going to have opening night live with Jeff Keighley returning to show off some things, probably kickstart or do something to do with this Summer Games Fest. We don't really know what it does. But you know what? Gamescom's one of those I think I'd always love to go to at some point.
We'll get there one year.
One year, I'm sure we will. If Google Stadia have like a guaranteed presence there, that would make me push so much more to want to go. But we'll see how it goes.
It's an expensive.
Yeah, exactly. If you intend to go, do let us know. If you've been to Gamescom before, do let us know. It just looks like a whole couple of days worth of fun. Exploring your passion, seeing getting some freebies, maybe seeing some early access of games. But yeah, nice to see it's back. It makes me feel like the world is actually returning to normal.
Until Vlad decides to invade.
Well, yeah, exactly. Dracula does have his plans after all. And on that note, Richie, that brings us to the end of the Sounds of Stadia podcast, episode number 129. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions for the show, you can write them in on our Discord channel. Link is in the description below. Don't forget, if you haven't done so already, also give the video a like. Subscribe and hit that bell so you're kept in the loop with all of the amazing Stadia and cloud gaming content we do here at Helix Cloud Games, like our live streams, Let's Plays, First Looks, and much, much more. Just like our SideQuest episode, Richie, we briefly touched on it in the middle of this show when we were talking about Windows being ported and all the journalists going all abuzz about what happens if all this Windows library gets moved over to Stadia. Now, we fancied some games from Windows in a while, but why don't we talk about that in a little bit more depth?
Yeah, it's something I've wanted to talk about for a little while, but this seems to be the right moment to talk about what games that are traditionally PC games could come over to Google Stadia that we think should be. And this, for the sake of this conversation in SideQuest, we're going to pretend that the restriction that it has to be gamepad enabled doesn't exist.
Well,
so we're talking mouse and keyboard for this one.
Let's go do it. SideQuest episode 58, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
58. Terrific. And if you're listening to this on Monday and you cannot wait until this goes on free feeds, remember, our members get it now. It's already live. It went live yesterday. No, in fact, it might went live early, depending on how quick Richie is. We stay up to 6 days early. You get it early, you get badges, you get stickers, you get all the fun, all the excitement, and support for us lovely gentlemen who try and bring you the utmost best cloud gaming content we possibly can, grow and expand the channel, and we can do that just by watching along, liking and such. So thank you again to everyone who's tuned in, our wonderful members, our viewers, the hundreds of you who listen on podcast platforms and on YouTube. We'll catch you this next week for our weekly live stream. Richie, probably going to be on a Friday this week, if I'm honest, because I'm away with work during the middle of the week, so I might not be back in time. So rather than risk it, we'll do a Friday.
Yeah, we can move it to Friday.
And we'll see what we'll play then. We'll keep it tuned. If you want to play something specific, again, Discord's the place to talk about it, let us know. We try and mix it up. We try and do things differently. So yes, just keep it locked and do chat to us. My name's been Chris.
I've been Richie.
We've been Helix Cloud Games, bringing you Sounds of Stadia podcast. And remember, folks, play whatever makes you the happiest. Have a great week. See you all soon. Goodbye.
Bye.